Piyasya Chesa Govindamadi Purusham Amaham Bhajami Shriram Yatadhi Vikara Vishesha Yogat Sanjayate Hitatat Kritagasti Hektoho Yaksham Bhutam Apitata Samupaiti Karyat Govindamadi Purusham Amaham Bhajami Deeparshya Eva Hidasham Dhanam Abhyupetya Deepayate Vrita Hetu Samana Dharma Yastratrik Eva Hija Vishnu Taya Vibhati Govindamadi Purusham Amaham Bhajami Yatkaranarna Bhajale Bhajati Smayoga Nidramananta Jagadanda Saroma Kupaha Adara Shaktim Avalamyam Param Samurtim Govindamadi Purusham Amaham Bhajami Yasyaika Nishvasitamakala Matavalambya Jivanti Loma Vidaja Jagadandanataha Vishnur Mahanti Hayasya Kalabhishesho Govindamadi Purusham Amaham Bhajami Basvan Yatangshma Sakaneshu Nijeshu Teja Sviyam Kiyat Prakariyat Tadvitad Vadatra Brahmaya Esha Jagadanda Vidhana Karta Govindamadi Purusham Amaham Bhajami Yatpada Pallava Yugam Vidhaya Kumbha Dvandve Pranama Samaye Sakanadi Raja Vignan Hantam Anamacha Jagaskrayasya Govindamadi Purusham Amaham Bhajami Agnir Mahiga Gadam Amba Marudishascha Kalastatatma Manasita Jagatkrayani Yasmat Bhavanti Vibhavanti Vishanti Yangcha Govindamadi Purusham Amaham Bhajami Yachakshir Esha Savita Sakala Grahanam Raja Samasta Suramurti Ashesha Teja Yasyagya Brahmati Sambrita Kala Chakra Govindavadi Purusham Amaham Bhajami Dharma Tapapa Nichaya Shutayasta Pangshi Brahmadi Kita Patagavadayascha Jivaha Yadratrama Prakata Prabhava Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yastvindra Gopam Atavindra Mahosva Karma Bandana Rupam Anabhajanam Atunoti Karmani Nirdahitu Kintu Chabakti Bhajam Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yakroda Kama Sahaja Pranayadi Biti Vatsangya Moha Gura Gaurava Sevya Bhavai Sanchintya Tasha Shatushim Tanam Aparete Govindamadi Purusham Aham Bhajami Shriya Kanta Kanta Parama Purusha Kalpa Taravo Druma Bhumischintamani Ganamayi Tayam Amritam Kata Ganam Natyam Ganamam Api Vamshi Priyasaki Chiranandam Jyoti Param Apitad Asvadyam Apicha Sa Yatrak Sharadi Shravati Sarabi Vyasya Sumahan Dimeshad Yakyo Vavrajati Nahi Yatrapi Samaya Vijay Shveta Dvipam Tamaham Golokam Ityam Vidantaste Shantashati Viradachara Katipaye Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Anadiraye Govinda Sarvakarana Karanam. These are sacred mantras. These are the prayers that we just chanted. They're the expressions of the original receiver of the Vedas, Lord Brahma, directly from within his heart, from the personality of Godhead, Tene Brahma Hridaya Adi Kavaye. His expressions of realization of the personality of Godhead, the spiritual world, the relationship of all spiritual and material existences that come from Him. They're very, very profound and beautiful prayers, chanted for purification, purify the atmosphere on this auspicious occasion. I'd like to explain one mantra that while Kirtan was going on, the devotees who are going to be initiated were chanting a classic Vedic mantra. Om apavitro pavitro va sarvavastam gatopi va ya smarit pundarikaksham sabhaya abhyantara suchihi. Shri Vishnu, Shri Vishnu, Shri Vishnu. This mantra means, really it's the essence of what this ceremony is. Pavitra or apavitra, purified or unpurified, or sarvavastam gatopi va, etc. Having passed through all circumstances of life, you name it. Whatever the previous situation is, there's not a prior qualification or disqualification. But whatever the circumstance, purified or unpurified, ya smaret pundarikaksham, that person who remembers the lotus-eyed Supreme Personality of Godhead, pundarikaksham, that person can pass over all circumstances of life, come to the position of fearlessness, sabhaya abhyantara suchihi, and become suchi, purified. And that means of contact and remembrance of the Supreme Lord is by calling His name. In the Vedic mantra, Shri Vishnu, Shri Vishnu, Shri Vishnu. This is a Harinam Diksha event, or also Sanskar, a stage of, very important stage of life, where as each of the Sanskars that are performed, at some juncture, passing from one stage to the next stage. And when that intersection of one previous stage and the next stage is taking place, it's a very important time that an impression or sanskara is made upon the mind and upon the heart. That is, the dedication of that passage from one situation to the next situation for dedication to the personality of Godhead. And especially amongst the sanskaras, this diksha is very important because it marks the transition from coming into worldly existence by birth or conception, even before birth takes place, Garbhadan Sanskar, the second birth. At the time one is born, there's a sanskara for giving the name to that newly born child. And there's a ritual connected, and the name is given, identifying the name of the child and the family in which the child was born. And this sanskar, diksha, a spiritual name is given in connection with the second birth, the beginning. Very nice translation of the word diksha is initiation, because initiation implies a beginning. And even before the beginning, there's preparation for that beginning. So all of the activities performed by the devotees prior to initiation, it's to help purify, qualify, and prepare themselves for taking shelter of disciplic succession. Along with the altar of many very attractive, beautiful deities, approach to the deity form of the Lord is made through the disciplic succession. We have our pictures on the altar of our disciplic succession: Srila Prabhupada, Bhakti Siddhanta, Gorkishore Das Babaji, Bhakti Vinod Thakur, and our other acharyas in the line of disciplic succession are the way that we approach Krishna. We don't approach Krishna directly. In fact, in the details, the procedure of archana, the very first thing that one does is request permission on behalf of the spiritual master to do this service on his behalf. And on his behalf, the deity is approached. That's the Vedic system, ancient Vedic system. So this is connecting with the line of the family of Krishna. I'll just express it this way. Earlier this year, in the month of January, I was with a group of devotees and we visited places of Lord Chaitanya's pilgrimage when he left Puri on his South India tour. We stopped at the places where Lord Chaitanya went: Kurmakshetra, Simachalam, and so forth, the places where Lord Chaitanya visited, and it's described in Chaitanya Charitamrita, the exchanges that took place at some of those wonderful places. So each place, there are prominent deities, and the prominent deities, commonly in those South India locations, they're presided over by the Sri Vaishnava priests. So because I'm a sannyasi, some consideration was given. I was brought before the deity by somebody, the local devotee who was assisting in our pilgrimage. And some little ceremony is done to make an offering to the deity on behalf of that person who's taking darshan of the deity. So those of you that are from South India, you're very familiar with all this. So at a certain point in time, the priest would turn to the devotee next to me, because he didn't speak English and I didn't speak their language, Telugu or in Tamil when we went to further south. And they asked, he spoke to the person and said, "What is his name?" And said, "Romapada Swami." And then he said, "What is his gotra?" And he didn't say Malechayavana, although that would be appropriate. He said, "Achyuta Gotra." And the priest smiled and said the mantras, Romapada Swami, Achyuta Gotra. Because it means when you become initiated, as I was initiated by Srila Prabhupada, it means being accepted as part of Krishna's family. That's what Achyuta Gotra means. You're in the line of Krishna's family. So the first birth is whatever it is. And the second birth is the identity by which a Vaishnava is known. There may be a legal name. When I enter in countries and have to fill out the passport information, it's my legal name, my passport name, although I could have my name changed to but the legal name that was given at the time of birth, there wasn't a samskara, just the law required my parents to put something on the birth certificate. And then initiation. And the initiation is the spiritual identity, or at least the line of spiritual connection that is meant as a beginning of, or recognition of the formal connection, acceptance by and submission unto. It's a two-way. Submission unto is the part that we do, and acceptance by is what the line of disciplic succession does. And initiation means formalizing that. Acceptance into the disciplic succession. By, in Prabhupada's language, is the current link, as in a chain of disciplic succession, and there's a current link. So then one becomes, initiated devotee becomes the next link, or in the line of disciplic succession, connected. And that is a great honor, and it's also implies a great responsibility. We like honor more than we like responsibility. Responsibility is to properly represent the disciplic succession. Properly represent the disciplic succession both in prachar, how you speak, but also achar, how you behave. And between the two, your achar is more important. And to behave or to act according to the teachings of the disciplic succession, that's a tall order, because the teachings of disciplic succession are very elevated. We've been discussing the teachings of Kapila Dev during this weekend. And for me, it's been very enlivening. I don't know about all of you, but I'm enjoying it very much. But it's also helping to appreciate what the standard is. It's a wonderful standard. I wouldn't have it any otherwise than a wonderful standard. But it's a responsibility to, at least according to the teachings of Rupa Goswami, follow and strive according to the instructions given by Rupa Goswami and successive acharyas, how to properly represent the disciplic succession. When Prabhupada performed initiation ceremonies, I've listened to many of them and read transcriptions of many of them. And there are certain verses that Prabhupada particularly liked to refer to, so I want to refer to one or two of them. One of them is Tasmat Guru Prapadyeta Jigyasu Shreya Uttama. Tasmat Guru Prapadyeta. One should prapadyeta, one should surrender unto a spiritual master, one should accept a spiritual master, provided Jigyasu Shreya Uttama. One is Jigyasu means inquiry or inquisitive. One is aspiring for Shreya Uttama. In the teachings of Lord Kapila Dev, the same thing was being taught, that a devotee, a sadhu, the Vaishnava, is not interested in, even if offered, material pleasures in this world, material pleasures in the heavenly world, even liberation. Svarga, apavarga, narakeshu, apitulyarta darshanam. That's the qualification of one who's attached to Pundarikaksham, the lotus-eyed Lord. They're so filled and satisfied and happy that offer them anything. Offer them anything. And the answer is, no thank you. I'm very satisfied. I simply want to go closer and become more pure and more pleasantly situated in serving the personality of Godhead. Pleasantly meaning pleasing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Let me increase that capacity in pleasing the Supreme Lord and His dear representatives. Let me have their association so that I can receive the means, the mercy and the instructions how to be more effectively pleasing to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, Jigyasu Shreya Uttama. Shabde pare cha nishnatam brahmani upasama ashrayam. Shabde pare cha nishnatam. The qualification, how is one to understand the qualification of who I should surrender unto? they're perfectly knowledgeable, fixed in knowledge of the Vedic wisdom. And Nishnatam, Upasamashrayam, they're on the one hand fixed in spiritual understanding, and the other hand detached from material involvement. It exactly fits what Lord Kapila Dev was instructing to Devahuti, the process of devotional service. The chapter that we're discussing is the glories of devotional service. And simultaneously, it brings one into connection with the Supreme Pure, and by that connection with the Supreme Pure, that which is impure, disconnected with the personality of Godhead, apart from the interest of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one becomes cleansed of that. Upasamashrayam. The process of submission to the disciplic succession helps one to achieve that. And the acceptance by the disciplic succession empowers one to do that. Both are required. This Nivritti Marg is the teaching that Srimad Bhagavatam is offering, or this Bhagavat Vidhi is offering. Connecting oneself with the Supreme Personality of Godhead is so powerful that the attraction for the temporary, Prabhupada would sometimes call it glitter gold, the imitation of the real thing can't hold a candle to the real thing. The real thing is that the transcendental happiness found in one's relationship with the Personality of Godhead. And this is most effectively achieved in this age in a very simple manner, just from chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. So this initiation is initiation into the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra with prior practice, by following the 4 rules strictly, by engaging in enthusiastic, full devotional service. I was discussing this with Hari Vilas Prabhu, and I'll invite him to also say something on this. But in the mood which he has tried to establish, and these devotees have accomplished, is full engagement in devotional service. That is to say, part of one's devotional service is one's family. Part of one's devotional service is one's career. And part of one's devotional service is whatever can be done to serve the devotees. We say in our Premadvani prayers, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, which means all glories to all the assembled devotees who I find great happiness in serving. And there's a very wonderful temple here that's a center for the devotees to come for sadhu sangha and bite in serving one another. And that's a demonstration. Achieving that is a demonstration that the holy name has touched your heart. It's cleansed the heart, and the heart is now calling out, crying out, Krishna, please give me some service. I'd like to serve. The service to you is service to the devotees of the Lord, and service to the cause of the mission of bringing Krishna consciousness into the lives of others. So these devotees have accomplished that, and so it's being recognized by this Harinam Diksha. Formal connection is being established. And Jigyasu Shray Uttama, just again, it's Tasmad Guru Prapadyeta. Jigyasu Shray Uttama. It's essential. Tad Vigyanartam Sagurum Eva Vigajchet. That person requires initiation who, it's mandatory, it's imperative to come to the spiritual position, to make that submission to the disciplic succession. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur described in one lecture, after a very large initiation with many hundreds of devotees, he described the meaning of initiation. And he said the essence of initiation is submission and acceptance. And the experience of the many who were initiated, he was saying, today, will be a different experience. And the variable is their degree of submission. And Krishna is very kind. Krishna accepts our submission. Whatever it is, however we approach Krishna. According to our regard for him, Krishna reciprocates. So when that submission is with full-heartedness, it goes to the current link, but it's the whole disciplic succession. The current link is simply serving the next link, and the next link is serving the next link. In this way, the whole disciplic succession is being connected to. And the mercy, when you consider the lives, just as Prabhupada was explaining in relation to Kapila Dev's teachings, the devotees like to describe and hear about Krishna and Krishna's devotees. And you hear about the lives of our disciplic succession, and it's awesome. Personality after personality after personality. They're just such amazing personalities. So merciful personalities, so magnanimous, so powerful. And they want to give their mercy. And some persons say, yes, I want that mercy. And receiving that mercy, then they take it and use it to serve those who may not yet have that mercy. And our temples are for that purpose, bringing those persons eager for mercy together, and places to go out and distribute that mercy to yet others. And come before the deity and worship the deity and have nice kirtan and nice festivals in honor of the Lord and his devotees. It's a very joyful process. Kevalananda Kanda. Tushyanti cha, ramanti cha, kathayantas chamam nityam, as Harivilas Prabhu was quoting. So, one other thing I'd like to say, and we'll just move on. Along with chanting, the vow is for chanting, to continue maintaining the vow of chanting the holy name very carefully, the whole of one's life. It's necessary to chant without, or strive to chant without offense. Try to become free from the offenses when chanting the holy name. Commonly, Srila Prabhupada would speak about that and identify the offenses to be avoided when chanting. So instead of going through the whole list, I'd like to invite Harivilas to speak something, because he has an intimate relationship with each of you and has been guiding you and caring for you and watching you grow from little bhaktas and bhaktins to nice mature devotees. But one should be very careful to avoid the offenses in chanting. The essence, the root of all offenses is inattentiveness, and the antidote is attentiveness. So please make very conscientious efforts to chant every day with maximum effort of attention. And cultivating chanting the holy name like that, your Krishna consciousness will naturally grow.
Thank you very much, Romapada Maharaj. The basis of cooperation amongst those devotees who are initiated by Srila Prabhupada is their commitment to following the vows of initiation when we were initiated. That is, the same vows that you're going to accept tonight. Those vows have kept us together as God brothers, and also kept us in a cooperative spirit to work coordinated to push this movement on progressively. In the same way, you'll be able to stay your whole lifetime in Krishna consciousness and work cooperatively with all devotees. Even though there are many initiating gurus today in the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, but the original guru is Lord Krishna. The original student or a disciple or shishya is Arjuna, and we're simply following Arjuna in his understanding of Krishna, and that understanding has been preserved integrally in the disciplic succession coming from Krishna to Brahma to Narada to Vyasa and down to us today through Srila Prabhupada and his disciples, and it'll continue like that with the next generation of disciples and so forth. I want to read a few things that Srila Prabhupada himself has said about initiation. In 1969, he wrote, "In the Western world, people are simply interested more in politics because the problems here are materialistic. In the material way of life, people are embarrassed with the thoughts of how shall I sleep, how shall I eat, how shall I mate, and how shall I defend. That is the way of material life. In the spiritualistic life, one knows that God has provided food for everyone. So we shall live on whatever things are contributed by the grace of God. God has provided immense land on this globe, so we have enough place to lie down. Mating is possible even in the birds and the beasts' life, so that is not a problem. And defending is always incomplete. Nobody can defend himself with utmost precautionary methods unless one is protected by the Lord. Therefore, in all circumstances, a devotee is 100% dependent on the mercy and protection of the Lord, as much as a child is 100% dependent on the mercy of the mother. Of course, it is very difficult for the Western people to understand this philosophy of being 100% dependent on the mercy of God. Therefore, the easiest method for us is to popularize the Sankirtan movement everywhere, and that will pave the path of spiritual understanding." So whatever we're lacking intellectually, or let's say in self-control, it can be compensated for and made up by always chanting the name of Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. Because by chanting the name of Krishna, we're directly in contact with Krishna. And by chanting the name of Krishna, you will always be in the company of devotees. Devotees will always appear by sincere chanting. And in the association of devotees, you can continue to chant without any obstacle. And if there are problems, you'll be supported by the devotees to overcome those problems and continue chanting. In another letter, Srila Prabhupada said, "Regarding your last question about the ecstatic symptoms of chanting Hare Krishna, you should know that the Hare Krishna mantra has an equal effect upon all devotees, just like the sunshine has an equal effect on everyone. But when it is covered, the sunshine has a different effect. Similarly, the influence of the Hare Krishna mantra becomes manifest when one is no longer covered by the 10 offenses to chanting. The more we become free from these 10 offenses, the more effect of chanting becomes manifested through us. Everyone can become a great devotee, being freed from the offenses 100%, simply by one's determination and effort. So, this determination to continue chanting comes by associating with good devotees who are following as strictly as possible the regulative principles of Krishna consciousness, which tonight you're going to all promise to follow strictly. Those regulative principles have two sections. They are yamas and niyamas, what you should not do and what you should do. And by following those principles, you'll never have any problems in Krishna consciousness. By breaking those principles, you'll only see problems. So no meat eating, fish or eggs, or anything that's not offerable to Krishna. No garlic or onion. No junk foods. Right?
Yay!
That are not prepared by devotees. You can eat junk food prepared by devotees. Like tonight we have lasagna, so you can eat that. It was offered to Krishna.
Harivilas cooked the lasagna.
With the help of Bhajagovinda. And then no illicit sex or connections outside of marriage. And no intoxication, including coffee and tea. And no gambling or philosophical speculation. So these are the four don'ts. That's the negative side. Positive side is, there has to be a positive side, because some people, when they hear the don'ts, they say, oh my God, better I commit suicide. There's nothing left for me to do. You took away everything that gives me pleasure in life. But no, there are things more happy and more pleasurable than those four things. And they are chanting the name of Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram. And preferably in the association of devotees. Preferably. Because your chanting would be better. Or on our own, we make many mistakes. And on our own, there's no one to correct us. But in the association of good devotees, we can check ourselves with their help so that we continually make progress. So if you ask me what's the most important thing in Krishna consciousness, I would say it's association with good devotees. Even if you don't chant, still associating with pure good devotees, you will begin to chant, and you'll continue to chant the rest of your life by that association. So the decisions you make in your life should be such that you'll always stay in good association. Just like one friend of ours decided to move back to India. And after a year and a half, he wants to come back here. Because he realized that where he ended up in India, it was harder to associate with devotees. He was on his own most of the time because of distance, because of work, because of where they live, because where the temple is. But here, we built this temple, and most people can get here in 5 or 10 minutes, or at the most a half an hour. And usually there's not much traffic. So this is a great blessing. It's easier to be Krishna conscious here than it is in India, believe me. You know, you can learn more about Krishna here than you do in India. So therefore, by also hearing regularly Bhagavad Gita, with the purports by Srila Prabhupada, not with the purports of somebody else. Because the purports of Srila Prabhupada explain whatever might be doubtful in our mind about the words of Krishna with the right understanding that Arjuna had. In other words, Arjuna is the #1 expert in Bhagavad Gita. If we read the Bhagavad Gita and come to any other conclusion different than Arjuna, we did not read the Bhagavad Gita. We read some other book. The conclusion that Arjuna has is Nasta moha smritir labdva tat prasadat mayuchyata stitosmi gata sandeha karishye vachanam tava. Now my moha, naasti mota, my moha, my illusion is gone. Smritir labdva, I can remember who I am. I'm your eternal servant, Krishna. And this is all your mercy, Achyuta. Mat prasadat Achyuta. And stitosmi, I'm firmly situated in my position as your eternal devotee. Gata Sandaya, I don't have any doubts anymore. Or you answered all my questions perfectly. Karishye vachanam tava. Now, whatever you say, that's what I'm going to do. That is the actual meaning of surrender. Surrender doesn't mean you give up your intelligence, you become a zombie, and you walk around in a daze. Someone says, jump off a bridge, you jump off the bridge. Someone says, go to the ATM machine, take all the money out of your bank account, give it to us, and you do that. That's not what it means. Surrender means that you hear the instructions of Krishna and you follow them. Not the instructions of me or anybody else, but the instructions of Krishna. And a bona fide devotee is a conduit of those instructions. In other words, bona fide, you can say, well, wait a minute, where does Krishna say that? And a bona fide devotee can show you in Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam where Krishna says exactly what he indicated are the instructions of Krishna. So you have a way of verifying that you're getting bona fide instructions. There's no hocus pocus or delirium because of being mesmerized by some magic man. No. Okay, then hearing regularly Bhagavad Gita, morning and evening, very important in Krishna consciousness. Regularly chanting 16 good rounds a day, and being able to meditate on the name so that we learn to depend on Krishna in every instance of our life. And then eating only or respecting only prasadam. One time I went to a program, and after the program was over, the host of the house said, "Oh, Prabhu, have some prasad." And I said, "Oh, thank you very much." I said, who made this prasad?" "Oh, it came from such and such a restaurant." I said, "No, excuse me, I don't want it." He said, "Why not? It's very tasty." I said, "It might be very tasty, but such and such restaurant, they also serve meat. They hire people that smoke and drink to make the food. So how can you call it prasad? Prasad is not any food. Everything is not prasad. Everything that glitters is not gold. Prasad is a very special thing. It was made with love and devotion for Krishna, offered first to the Guru, who offers it throughout the entire disciplic succession to Krishna, and if Krishna is pleased, his mercy comes back in the form of prasad to you. So you tell me that cook who's making $2,000 a month, smoking cigarettes and playing the lottery and eating hamburgers, is making prasad. Is that what you're saying? So they didn't say anything.
You spoke like that to them.
Yes. They were offering, it's like offering me a bottle with a label on nectar, but inside there's poison. Right? That's misrepresentation. So if I don't tell them, who else is going to tell them? They're telling each other this is prasad. So I didn't mean to insult anyone. They were not insulted. They understood that everything is not prasad. They just can't call something prasad that's not prasad. But when you come to the temple, you can be sure of one thing. Everything here is offered to Krishna according to Srila Prabhupada's instructions. So, everything you get here, whether it's prachar or achar or lasagna, it is prasad. Just like you're going to be taught also to everything you do, yat karosi yadasnasi yat juhosi dadasya yat tapasya sikonteya tat kurusvamanarpanam. Everything you do, everything you offer, any charity you perform, any austerities you perform, you should do it as an offering to Krishna according to the instructions of the spiritual master. And tonight, you are formally accepting His Holiness Romapada Swami Maharaj as your spiritual master. So, Srila Prabhupada says that you have asked if it is true that the spiritual master remains in the material universe until all of his disciples are transferred to the spiritual sky. The answer is yes. This is the rule. Therefore, every student should be very much careful not to commit any offense which will be detrimental to this promotion to the spiritual kingdom, and thereby the spiritual master has to incarnate again and again and again to deliver him. This sort of mentality will be a kind of offense to the spiritual master. Out of the 10 kinds of offenses, the number one offense is to disobey the orders of the spiritual master. The instructions given to the disciple by the spiritual master at the time of initiation should be strictly followed. That will make one advance to the spiritual path. But if one deliberately defies such instructions, then his advancement is hampered from the very beginning. This defying means to disconnect the relationship with the spiritual master. And anyone who defies and therefore disconnects the relationship with the spiritual master can hardly expect the assistance of the spiritual master life after life. I hope this will clear up this question sufficiently for you.
Fantastic answer.
Beautiful.
Beautiful.
This is Srila Prabhupada, our Gurudev. So therefore, initiation is the most serious decision you make in your life. And
more important than who you marry.
I was getting to that. These are the two most important decisions in life. You make a mistake on either one, you ruin your life. But I can guarantee you tonight, you're not making a mistake. Because the full extent of initiation should be understood. Initiation doesn't stop with the Diksha Guru. It's a continuum through your Diksha Guru, His Holiness Romapada Swami Maharaj, to His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, through His Divine Grace Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj, right back to Krishna. That's what initiation means. And initiation is not only nonsense cluttering the house, that's your business, and no one can say anything. But when you walk into Krishna's house and you're an initiated devotee, then you better be very careful. You better prove that you're initiated by being very, very meticulous at keeping this temple clean and regulated. Because the more the temple is clean, the more Krishna is decorated, the more pure your heart is. And the less the temple is clean, and the less that Krishna is taken care of nicely, we are all contaminated by it. So the proof that someone is actually initiated is like this. I went to see a factory to rent for the Vedic school with the owner of that factory. And as we were walking on the pavement, he has at least $60 million in the bank. Yes. He bent down and picked up the paper because it was his property. He could have hired someone, but he bent down himself. So that means he was initiated into his parampara. But now we're being initiated into Krishna parampara. That means we should bend down, pick up the piece of paper, sweep the floor, clean the stain on the wall, take care of the trash, whatever is necessary. Clean the toilet if necessary. And then then you get qualified for the next step, second initiation, where you can take care of the deities. You don't stop cleaning up the mess everywhere else, but because you have that assiduous mentality and a higher threshold of responsibility to serve Krishna, to understand I am in the Supreme Father's house. Therefore, everything that happens in this house is going to reflect my consciousness. Therefore, I have to make sure everything is clean, regulated, and the place is full of transcendental vibrations.
Speaking of regulation, we're going to proceed now with vows. We'll start over here. Romapada. You can go to Prabhupada's Vyasa-san and pay your obeisances. Then come over here. Both go together. You're a very together couple. While we're waiting, our initiates are all getting very fancy bead bags made by Braja Bhakti's mother. Why don't you, because they're going to do the same thing, you can offer obeisances so we can eat at the same time. Soma also you can. So your vows before the deities and Srila Prabhupada and all the devotees.
This is very good craft.
I'll say and then you say. How many rounds you'll chant on your beats daily? Okay. And the rules that you'll follow? Okay. And he doesn't need a microphone. He's okay. And you'll follow very carefully Srila Prabhupada's teachings for the rest of your life. Yes? Very good. Your initiated name is Haripala Bhaktas. Prabhupada's teachings carefully. Your initiated name is Archana Dasi. One of the 9 principal processes of bhakti is Archana, deity worship. I hope you like deity worship. Okay, so your vows. How many rounds you'll chant every day in your beats? Okay. And the rules that you'll follow? And you like Srila Prabhupada's teaching very much, I know, and you'll follow his teaching very carefully. Your initiated name is Damodar Prasad. How many rounds you'll chant every day? And the rules that you'll follow? Okay. And you'll follow very carefully Prabhupada's teachings. The balance of your life. Your initiated name is Kavita Mani Dasi. Kavita means poetry. Kavi is a poet, learned poetic person. And Kavita is what is written by that poet. Mani means jewel. So the writings of our perfected acharyas, particularly the writings of Srimad Bhagavatam, are like that. Okay, Soma. How many rounds you'll chant every day? The rules that you'll follow? Okay. And you like Prabhupada's teachings. How much do you read every day? Or in the course of a week, how much do you read Prabhupada's books? Yeah. Per day. How much are you reading? Now, this is the wrong time to ask this question. In the course of the week, how much time do you read? Honest. 1 hour in the course of the week. Try to increase. Okay. Your initiated name is Sona Gauranga Das. When you go to Vrindavan, have you ever been to Vrindavan? Once. Next time when you go to Vrindavan, you can try to visit the Sona Gauranga temple. It's near the Radharaman temple, and in the Sona Gauranga temple is a deity that Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj worshipped personally, and someone tried to steal it because they thought it was gold, because it's very golden in color. So he turned it over instead to, they were unable to carry it, he fell, and they ran in fear. So he gave it to the devotees living in Vrindavan to worship. It's very beautiful, very merciful deity. Sona Varana. Hare Krishna. So yeah, go ahead.
Om Swasti no Govindo, Swasti no Chitananto, Swasti no Vasudevo Vishnu Dadatu, Swasti no Narayano Naromai, Swasti na Padmanabha Pushatamo Dadatu, Swasti no Vishwaksheno Vishveswara, Swasti no Rishikesho Harir Dadatu, Swasti no Vainatenyo Hari, Swasti no Anjana Suto Hanur, Bhagavato Dadatu, Swasti Swasti Sumangalai Kesho Mahan, Shri Krishna Satchitananda Ganaha Sarvesvaro Dadatu.
Go down.
Om Bhur Swaha Om Bhuva Swaha Idam Vishnave Idam Namama Idam Achyutaya Idam Namama Om Swaha Idam Narayana Idam Namama Om Bhuva Swaha Idam Anantaya Idam Namama Om Bhaganyati Vedandasya Om Bhaganyati Vedandasya Chakshuram Viditam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Chakshuram Viditam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manubhishtam Shapitam Yena Bhutale Shri Chaitanya Manubhishtam Shapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapatantikam Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapatantikam Swaha 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 Vandeham
One of the disconnect on the feeder. The camera display on the feeder.
Sajivam Saivaitam Savadutam Rijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pada Bhagana Lalita Shakan Ambitam Shya Swaha 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 Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Romapada Swami Maharaj Swami Iti Namine Swaha 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 Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Kucharine Vishesha Sunyavadi Nishchatya Disatarine Swaha 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 Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Iti Namine Varsavana Videvi Daitaya Vipabdaye Krishna Sambandha Vijnana Ayane Prabhave Namaha Say together Om Swaha Swaha Say it together Madhur Kunjvala Primadya Rupanuga Bhaktida Karuna Shakti Grahaya Namos Namostute
Vigrahaya Namostute
Namaste Gauravani
Namaste Gauravani
Shri Murtaye Dinatarine
Shri Murtaye Dinatarine
Rupanuga Virudapa
Rupanuga Virudapa
Santa Dvantaharine
Santa Dvantaharine
Swaha Swaha Namo Gorakishoraya
Namo Rakishoraya
Shadvaya Yamurtaye Pralambara Sambodhe Adam Pujayate Namah Swaha 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 Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Sanchit Ananda Namine Pura Shakti Swarupaya Rupa Varayate Swaha 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 Gauravir Bhava Bhumestvam Nideshta Sajjana Priya Vaishnava Sarvabhaumashi Jagannathayate Namah Swaha 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 Vanchakalpatarabhyascha Vipasindhubhyeva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Swaha 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 Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gurachise Namah Swaha 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 Panchatattvatmakam Krishna Bhaktarupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhaktasaktikam Swaha 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 Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Adha Kanta Namostute Swaha 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 Jayatam Surato Pangur Amamanda Matir Gati Matsarvasvapadam Bojo Adha Madana Mohano Swaha 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 Divya Vindaranya Kalpajumadaha Srimad Ratnagara Simhasanastito Srimad Radha Srila Govinda Devo Stali Vihi Sevyamanu Smarami Swaha Swaha Srimad Rasarasarambi Shivadatatastita Darsana Venusvaner Gopi
What happened? That signal is not coming.
Swaha 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 Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Ade Vrindavaneshwari Vishavanustute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Swaha 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 Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Vasudhi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Krishna Hare Hare, Rama Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Swaha, Namo Brahmanya Devaya, Brahmana Hitaya Cha, Jagat Hitaya Krishnaya, Vindaya Namo Namaha, Namo Brahmanya Devaya, Brahmana Hitaya Cha, Jagat Hitaya Krishnaya, Vindaya Namo Namaha, Brahmanya Devaya, Brahmana Hitaya Cha, Jagat Hitaya Krishnaya, Vindaya Namo Namaha, Swaha, Swaha, Swaha. Gaura Premanande. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,